I woke up one morning to find three massive trucks blocking my entire garage, not parked in front of it, inside it. My tools, my car, my storage all trapped behind thousands of pounds of metal that didn't belong to me. And standing at my front door with a smug grin was Linda, the HOA president, holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. She didn't apologize, she didn't explain, she just said, "The rules allow it." I stood there stunned, realizing this wasn't a mistake, it was a power move. So I made a choice that would turn our quiet suburban street into a battlefield. I locked the garage door with her trucks still inside, walked back into my house and dialed 911. What happened next didn't just shock Linda, it exposed something about our HOA that no one saw coming. I'd lived in Maplewood Estates for 3 years, and for the most part, it was exactly what I'd hoped for when I bought the house. Quiet streets, friendly neighbors, a 2-car garage that I'd converted into a workshop where I restored old furniture on weekends. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, a place where I could unwind after long shifts at the hospital. The HOA existed, sure, but they were mostly invisible. An occasional email about lawn height or holiday decorations, nothing invasive, nothing that ever made me think twice about signing that contract when I closed on the house. Then Linda became president. She moved in 2 years ago, a sleek gray townhouse at the corner of the block, and within 6 months she'd taken over the board. Suddenly, the emails weren't occasional anymore, they were constant. Mailbox paint colors, trash can placement, the exact angle your car had to be parked in your driveway. At first, I laughed it off. Everyone did. We joked about it at block parties, rolled our eyes in the group chat. But Linda wasn't joking. I started noticing her walking the neighborhood with that clipboard, taking photos of houses, scribbling notes. She'd knock on doors with printed violation notices, citing obscure sections of the HOA charter that no one had ever heard of. People started getting fined, small amounts at first, then bigger ones. I thought I was safe. I kept my yard pristine, followed every rule to the letter. I had no idea she was about to make me her next target. It started with a letter. Not an email this time, an actual printed letter slid under my door while I was at work. The subject line at the top read, "Notice of violation, unauthorized garage use." I read it twice, convinced it was a mistake. According to the letter, my garage was being used for commercial purposes because I occasionally sold refurbished furniture online. Never mind that I'd sold maybe 5 pieces in 2 years. Never mind that I wasn't running a storefront or disturbing anyone. Linda had decided my hobby violated Section 12.4 of the HOA Charter, which prohibited business operations conducted from residential properties. The fine? $200, due in 10 days. I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring, her voice dripping with false politeness. "I'm just enforcing the rules," she said. "If you have an issue, you're welcome to attend the next board meeting and present your case." The next board meeting was 6 weeks away. I paid the fine. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted it to go away. But Linda wasn't done with me. 2 weeks later, another letter. This time she claimed my garage door was improperly maintained because the paint was slightly chipped near the bottom corner. Another $100 fine. I looked at the door. The chip was barely visible, maybe the size of a dime, caused by normal wear and tear. I repainted it that weekend. Then came the parking violation. I'd parked my car in my driveway, exactly where I'd parked it for 3 years, but now apparently it was 6 inches over an invisible property line that extended into the street. $50 fine. I moved the car. But here's where it got strange. One morning, I came home from a night shift to find orange cones blocking my driveway. No explanation, no warning, just cones. I moved them, parked, and went inside. The next day, they were back. This time with a note taped to one. "Driveway under HOA review. Do not park here until new further notice." I called Linda again. No answer. I left 3 voicemails. Nothing. So I parked on the street. And that's when I noticed her watching. Every time I came home, she was there, standing at her window, clipboard in hand, watching me park, watching me unload groceries, watching me check my mail. It was unnerving in a way I couldn't quite explain, not threatening exactly, but constant, invasive. Then, one Saturday morning, I woke up and saw them. 3 trucks, big commercial work trucks with company logos on the side, parked inside my garage. Not in front of it, inside it. I walked out in my pajamas staring in disbelief. The garage door was wide open. My tools were shoved into the corner. My workbench was buried under tarps and equipment I didn't recognize. And sitting on my front porch, calm as ever, was Linda. "Good morning," she said, smiling. "I hope you don't mind. The HOA hired a landscaping crew for some community improvements, and we needed temporary storage. Your garage was listed as available." "Available?" I said. "I never—" She held up a document. "Section 9.2 of the Charter. The HOA reserves the right to use any private property for community purposes in emergency situations." "This isn't an emergency. That's subjective," she said. "The trucks will be here for a few days, maybe a week. Don't worry, you won't be fined for the commercial use." She turned and walked away, leaving me standing there speechless. I stood at the edge of my driveway staring at those trucks, and something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to beg anymore. I wasn't going to play her game. I walked back into my house, grabbed my garage door remote, and pressed the button. The door came down with a loud metallic thud, sealing the trucks inside. Then I picked up my phone and dialed 911.
The sheriff arrived 20 minutes later. I watched from my living room window as the patrol car pulled up, and Linda came sprinting out of her townhouse like I'd just committed a federal crime. She was waving that clipboard, already talking before the deputy even got out of the car. I walked outside. "Officer, thank God you're here," Linda said, breathless. "This man has illegally locked HOA property inside his garage. He's interfering with community operations." The deputy, a middle-aged guy with tired eyes and a notepad, looked at me. "Is that true?" "It's my garage," I said calmly, "and those aren't HOA trucks. They belong to a private landscaping company. I never gave anyone permission to store them on my property." Linda's face went red. "Section 9.2 clearly states—" "Section 9.2, I interrupted, pulling out my phone, "applies to emergency use of common areas, not private garages. I had a lawyer look at it this morning." That wasn't entirely true. I'd called a lawyer friend at 6 a.m., half panicked, and he'd skimmed the HOA charter over coffee. But the bluff worked. The deputy looked at Linda. "Ma'am, do you have written consent from the homeowner?" She hesitated. "The HOA bylaws." "That's not what I asked." Silence. "Then these trucks are parked on private property without permission. That's trespassing." Linda's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious," he said. "You need to remove them, now." But here's the thing. She couldn't. The landscaping crew was on another job 2 towns over. The trucks were locked, and the garage door was sealed shut with 3,000 pounds of metal trapped inside. The deputy turned to me. "Do you want to press charges?" I looked at Linda. Really looked at her. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I saw something I hadn't seen before. Fear. "No," I said slowly, "but I want every fine she's issued me in the last 3 months refunded, and I want a formal apology in writing." The deputy nodded. "Sounds reasonable?" Linda stared at me, her perfect composure finally cracking. "This isn't over," she whispered. But we both knew it was. The trucks were gone by Monday morning. Linda had to pay the landscaping company extra to come back on a Sunday, and from what I heard through the neighborhood grapevine, she footed the bill herself, not the HOA. The refunds hit my account 3 days later, every penny. The written apology never came, but something better did. A week after the incident, I got a knock on my door. It was Tom, one of the neighbors from 2 streets over. He'd been fined for having his trash cans out 4 hours too early. Another neighbor, Maria, had been cited for planting roses that were the wrong shade of pink. They'd all stayed silent, paid up, moved on. Not anymore. By the end of the month, 15 homeowners had filed formal complaints against Linda. The HOA board called an emergency meeting. Linda tried to defend herself, cited the rules, waved her clipboard one last time. They voted her out, unanimously. She moved out of Maplewood Estates 2 months later. No goodbye, no forwarding address, just a for sale sign and an empty townhouse. I still live here. I still restore furniture in my garage. And now, when I see someone get a violation notice, I don't tell them to just pay it and move on. I tell them what I learned that day. Bullies only have power when you're too afraid to lock the door. Sometimes the best way to fight back is to stand your ground and let them realize they never had the right to take it in the first place.